And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 135 of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I wasn't ready. I'm also Kent.
No, you are not. You are also Kent. This
I was
is true.
playing. I was dry firing.
Of course.
Being good. Yeah.
Of course. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a lovely Friday night on Cinco de Mayo. What would that be? Feliz Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah. Feliz is happy. Cinco de Mayo is 5th of
I
May.
think.
Yeah. Happy 5th of May. Yeah.
I think I had to whitelist something. I just installed some new antivirus software on my computer, so that might have been what was causing my camera issues. Anyway, yes, Feliz Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your evening. Kent and I wanted to do an episode this week, and not really a long one per se, but it's one we've some content we've actually talked about on the podcast, but we've never actually, I don't think we've actually done a full episode on this topic.
Nope. And after today's discussion, we've agreed to do 37 of them. No?
37 of what?
Dry Fire episodes. Welcome to the Dry Fire
discussions?
podcast. I'm Kent, and I'm taking over. This is all we're going to do. We're just going to talk about Dry Fire.
You said we're going to do 30. You said we're going to do 37 more.
Mm-hmm.
The fans are missing context, as is your co-host.
That's fine. I'm just saying, I want to do a lot of Dry Fire episodes.
Oh, 37 more dry fire episodes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Kent, as the resident gun expert, or training expert, I should say, what do the dear viewers at home who maybe have never dry fired before or only been moderately introduced to it on a novice basis, maybe even some people that think it's a novelty and not really going to support or advance their training regimen or skill set, what's one of the first things people need to know about dry fire?
Well, here's the deal. I think really the thing that would help most people is to have a plan in mind. Mm-hmm. So rather than getting too deep into the rabbit hole in this one, I figured what we could do is we could talk about having a program, where to start, what to look into, not like specific drills or anything. I want to bust a lot of myths. I want to talk about the gadgets and the books and the training aids and all the different things that people get into. I want to talk about what dry fire is good for. And I want to see if we can come up with an example of something that dry fire is not good for. Or maybe some bad dry fire habits or something like that. So This really does have the potential to require a good chunk of episodes. It does have the potential to involve some of our friends from the training community. We could talk to people about what their dry fire regiment looks like, what they do, what kind of work they put in, all that good kind of stuff. So tonight I figured we talk about myths. I figured we talk about accessories and aids. And then I figured we talk about what a basic plan looks like. Make sense?
I think that makes sense. As we get started into this, right, I think, at least for the most novice of our listeners, folks, the term dry fire, while I'm sure Kent has a textbook definition for it, quite simply boiled down is it is it is practice with your firearm without any ammunition in it whatsoever. There should be no ammunition in or around you while you are conducting dry fire practice.
Yeah. So
safety first.
Before we just jump headlong into it, though, how the hell are you, buddy? Are you dry firing?
I'm good, man. I am.
Yeah.
Actually, got a few reps in today. I did about 20 minutes worth today.
Yeah. It's
in between calls, right? I am fortunate enough that I work from home. So, guys, I've said it before. Where you see me sit right now is exactly where I sit for my day job. Probably 90% of the month. There's a few times where I go into the office, but I've got some targets set up, and we can talk about that when we get to the accoutrements and accessories element of it. It doesn't have to be complicated, but I've got a few small targets pasted up on my wall, and I stand on the opposite side of so the targets are over on this wall, all the way against on the far side, all the way up to my left, where my gun safe is and all that stuff, is where I will usually stand. It's about, 15 feet ish from where I usually stand to my dry fire targets.
Yeah. So so first of all, let's go into the bare bones basics, like the stuff a guy's gonna need for a dry fire, right? So I'm gonna use some visual aids. And I know, we're not everybody's on camera with us, but you're gonna need something to shoot at. Exhibit A, just a 1/3 size target, USPSA IPSC stick on. You can buy these at gofastdon'tsuck.com. Mine are the Tim Herron variety. They've got Tim Herron's logo on them, so it makes you really good at reloads.
So I will admit those are a better quality, but for the budget minded, right? There are free versions of those targets that are available on to just print out. I believe, if I remember correctly, you can find them on Bear Solutions website. That's actually what I have. I just printed them out. There's a couple of different varieties of those 1/3 size targets, and I just used some masking tape and stuck them up on my wall.
Yeah, that works out pretty good. You can do all kinds of different things. You can get these stick ups. You can use masking tape. You can do all kinds of different things. So this is just a little, rather than move the computer, here's a little camera array of something I have set up right here in the basement, right? So that's over there across from me. Now you got the no shoots, you got the partial exposures, you got the different size simulated steel, all that in that dry fire array. So you work on all kinds of little stuff. But bottom line, you need something to shoot at. You need to be recording. I don't mean video camera. So something I like to do is I like to keep a dry fire log, right? So this dry fire log has all the various pieces of the puzzle that I write down. And let's see, what did I write when I started this log? December 24th, 22. I'll be more consistent on journaling practice sessions. Today I worked slide lock reloads and dry fire with the Enigma in a hoodie. Initial struggles due to lack of mag well and small mags quickly turned into consistency. Part time was 2 seconds, eventually incorporated movement. Also worked out well. The camera for Instagram caused needless nervous energy. That's just a little note on a dry fire session, right? So that's something that's nice to have. You're going to need a timer, right? I use my PAC club shot timer. I was just working on draws, 0.8 part-time. I'm not going to make the beepy noise because it's really annoying and loud on camera. And you're going to need a clear gun in your holster and all your other normal stuff. So those are the bare bones basics. That's the stuff you're going to need. You can get as fancy or non-fancy as you want. For example, right now I was just dry firing my 2011 with the barrel block in it and with a little kind of fake round. This is full of dummy rounds, right? So this thing weighs exactly what a mag would really weigh. There's a little fake round in it, and that fake round allows the gun totally normal and cycling operation, right? So I have something as simple as that, or we could get complicated as cool fire trainers, insert pistols, and all kinds of other things. So, you know, we get in the habit of wanting to work on different things and get all fancy and go spend a big bunch of money. But, you know, all I've got here is a little ammo box, right? With dry fire stuff in it. This is all I use. This is all I use anymore. Stuff from these barrel block guys, right? I use. You'll start to notice a theme in dry fire. On my dry fire stuff is marked blue. Here's my dry fire rifle mags. Dry fire shotgun stuff in here. Dry fire Glock mags. And a bunch of dummy rounds. These are correctly reloaded 147 grain actual ammunition, except no primer and no powder. The timer eventually decided to make timer noises.
Yeah,
so that's
real quick, guys, on the timer piece, right? Look, we could talk about all the chintzy, apps that are available. And look, there are free apps available that very well may suit your purposes. Having used both the apps and the real timer, I'm going to tell you guys, spend the money and get an actual timer. The applications for the actual timer are going to suit you way better on the range, right? So you can use it in both instances. I would not recommend using any of the phone apps for live range sessions, right? So if you're just going to use it for dry fire, the app will suffice for now, but go ahead and spend the money and get you a good shot timer to make sure you can actually keep track of your progress in live fire, right?
Yeah. You can go on any of our number of affiliate links and buy yourself a pack club timer. They're pretty legit, pretty easy to get a hold of. So that's the bare minimum stuff you're going to need. Couple things of note. I like reloaded, correctly weighted dummy rounds. I do not like snap caps. Not a big fan. I want my pistol to weigh the same, or my rifle or my shotgun to weigh the same as it would under normal operating conditions. So I need to have that real weight. Obviously, I really, I care quite a lot about, having a firearm that can withstand dry fire. So if your manufacturer tells you that your pistol cannot be dry fired safely, it can never fall on an empty chamber. I don't like that so much. I'm not big on the lasers. I don't like the lasers.
Right.
So my reasoning for that is if you could imagine your dry fire where you're attempting, I'll go ahead and mine this for the internet, but so here we are, we're attempting to get a good smooth trigger press and we're trying to get a good sight picture. If I had a laser on this gun, I might have the tendency to be kind of peeking over to the sights a little bit to see if my shot broke or hit. And I might be visually focused on the laser more so than tracking my dot or tracking my iron sights, as I should be to be calling my shots. So I'm not a big fan of lasers. And I find that's about it in terms of the gimmicks and gadgets that I feel like I need. Now, I am familiar with some of the stuff Mantis and some of these other companies make. I think the technology is finally caught up to the novelty. I think it's probably finally starting to be a pretty good idea. Some of these apps and guys, I know guys that have, a projector in the basement with a laser trainer and a police video simulator thing. I know all kinds of different, levels of technical sophistication. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 20 to 30 minutes a day of consistent gun handling routine and a regiment. I'm not looking for a video game that I'm going to play all day. Now, this is at least partially my own personal, if I had one of those simulators, I probably wouldn't teach gun classes anymore. I'd probably just be down here in the basement, smoking bad guys on my digital simulator. I can get a little wrapped up into stuff like that. I like to press a dead trigger in dry fire and a live trigger in dry fire. I like the little trick with an ammo box or a piece of cardboard and the striker fire guns where you block the action, 1/64 of an inch out of battery, and all of a sudden the trigger resets and presses almost normally. I like that a lot. That's a good little trick. So I can get trigger reset. You ever seen that, TJ?
No, explain it one more time.
So on a Glock pistol, if you rip the corner of an ammo box off and you put it between the breech face and the barrel, so that you're holding the action literally a 64th of an inch out of battery, your trigger will reset for you when you press it. It'll just bounce around.
Interesting. I have not seen that. I almost want to try that.
Yeah. I mean, go grab you a Glock pistol. Do it on air.
Yeah, I'll have to give that a whirl next time I have an ammo box nearby.
Yeah. I just say ammo box. Any like a playing card or a
I wonder if a business card would
business card's perfect.
Huh. Interesting. No, that's a new one to me. I wasn't aware of that one.
Yep. You want me to go grab a Glock and show it?
No, keep talking. I'll do it.
All right. So that's kind of a neat little thing. I want to be able to see my dot and my sight moving around and recoil, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. So TJ's got let's see. Yeah, clear and safe. Block 43X, it looks like. So he's gonna take just any old piece. There you go. And you're only ripping the corner off so that you can see
now,
the sight.
Am I cutting so just tearing a piece off of this, right?
Yeah.
I'll cut it. I am the knife guy. I wouldn't be proper if I didn't have a knife handy. All right. Piece of a business card.
Yeah.
All right. So between and I just dropped, there it is. So in between, might have cut this a little too thick.
Yeah. Yep. Don't run the trigger.
I might be a little too far out of battery, but the trigger is working. It's
Spongy,
just not falling.
right?
Yeah, it's spongy.
Yeah. So now run that fast. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Well, hold your gun
if I tear it off. Yeah, if I'm. So I actually tore off just so I can still see through my sights.
Yeah. That's what.
Interesting. Huh.
Yep.
I learned something new. That's a cool little trick.
I'll help you work on your splits. Yeah.
Cool.
Everybody who sees this podcast owes me $80.
Right.
1 hour of free private training. I'm really big on the credit where credit is due thing. For the fucking life of me, I can't remember who showed me that and when they showed it to me. But I've been doing that for a minute.
Really?
So that's a neat little trick. So you've got the basics covered, right? You need your holster, you need a shot timer, you need mags that weigh the same. You need a safe, totally sanitized, no shit, no live ammo area. You need a good, solid, safe direction just in case you get a boom oopsie. I'm going to regret saying this on the air, but I have been dry firing seriously for probably 12 years and had been doing it before that, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Bro, I have never had a boom oopsie in dry fire. Now watch, tomorrow I'll dry fire boom oopsie, but
yeah, you jinxed yourself now.
Right. But either way, right? I'm in a concrete walled basement, so if I do have a boom oopsie, ain't nothing leaving this house.
Right.
So there is that. Now, what are we working on? Like what, TJ? What other things? So you've got 20 minutes. What are you working on in dry fire?
Yeah, so I'll typically work on. I like to break it down into micro drills, right? Just to air out some dirty laundry, right? Kent and I have been talking back and forth about this. So when I go to the range, I will send Kent pictures of my targets. Right? Hey, this was my distance. This was the load I was shooting. This is the gun I was using. Right? We talk about it. Right? We actually do coach each other. It's a little bit more one directional than I'd like it to be, but there is some coaching and bouncing of ideas back off of each other to diagnose and support one another. That being said, I know that my biggest issue is honestly consistency of accuracy at distance, right? So like your consequences drill, 25 yards at a B8, right? Trying to keep everything in the black. That's something I've always struggled with. I know that there's only so much I can do, but I know I want to work on that. So on one of the Bear Solutions paper targets that I've printed out, I've got 3 of them. Just to kind of describe them to you guys, one of them's a standard, IPSC target, no blockages or special shapes on it or anything like that. The other one that I have, the majority of the target, with the exception of the A zone, is black. And then in the third target that I have, that I actually shoot at probably the most, especially when I want to work distance practice, it's a practically all white target. It's got a 7/8 inch square in the center of the target that represents, essentially a paster, right? So now, granted, I've only got about 7 yards to work with. I could probably stretch that out on the long side of my basement here, and get out to get up to 10 yards. But I'd be pushing it. So my goal in that dry fire session, I like to start with an intentional and deliberate draw stroke, clearing the cover garment, getting the gun, gripping the gun, getting it out of the holster, presenting on target, and then acquiring my sight picture while pressing the trigger so as not to disturb that sight picture on that call it a 1-inch target, right? My goal is to keep the dot in that 1-inch target at distance throughout the trigger press. I'll do that a few times, 5-10 minutes worth of that. And then the remainder of it, I'll work on a lot more of my speed, but speed on the more fundamental elements. So the draw stroke, clearing the cover garment in, a third of a second, gripping the gun in a third of a second, presenting the firearm in a third of a second. A lot of these things that you've done in class and I've done with you, of course. But yeah, I mean, those are some of the core fundamentals that I work on. I will work on some target transitions once in a while when I want to spice it up a little bit. So maybe I'll move one of my targets to the other side of the wall and I'll go from here to there and focus on driving with my eyes and working some of those core fundamentals. The only thing that I'm really missing out of that dry fire session is the report, detonation, and recoil of the action through firing live ammunition.
Yep. And pressing,
it's the only thing I'm missing.
Pressing a dead trigger can kind of help you replicate the recoil impulse.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, what I mean by that is, once your trigger's dead, it acts appreciably differently than it did when it was live. Right? So now that this trigger's dead, if I roll into the gun and I get on the trigger and start, yeah, it's sponginess. You can kind of see and hear sponginess in that trigger. And that trigger is, is causing my dot to want to move and jump. And it's causing the convulsive grip pressure in my dominant hand that I'm trying to work out and compress in with my support hand. So really, I'm getting a lot of the same effects. The only thing I'm not replicating is the boom.
Right. And some people might judge or critique dry fire practice for it being an incomplete experience because we're missing the detonation and the discharge of the firearm. However, when you understand that those core fundamentals that we're able to exercise and refine in dry fire practice, that detonation or recoil action of the firearm through live fire has no bearing on your ability to see and hit your target. All of those fundamentals are required before the detonation of a live round. Once the gun goes bang, that bullet's out the gun before you even realize it.
Well, unless you're John Wick.
Unless you're John Wick.
And then you're bending ammo. No, wait, that was Keanu Reeves, but it wasn't
Keanu Reeves. It wasn't Keanu Reeves either. It was John McAvoy.
No. In The Matrix.
Oh, in The Matrix, yes.
Yeah, he did it.
I thought you were because you were talking about curved bullets, dude. This is what I miss Corey for his pop culture references.
Holy fuck, Corey! Corey, are you alive somewhere?
I'm sure he is.
Corey.
I mean, he's a new daddy
to a child, right?
Yeah. They had a baby.
I didn't know if you got a stripper or something. I don't
know. No. He's living that dad life, man.
He's a good human being.
He is one of the finest.
We got to go find that dude and put him back on this show once. Yeah, like 10 times, but yeah. I don't want to talk about dry fire anymore. Now I just miss Corey.
Right. Something Miley Cyrus reference.
Oh my God, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
dude, his pop culture references were next level. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, back to dry fire. Did you say live fire? I almost said live fire. Yes.
Gun go boom.
It will this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, dudes, look. First of all, nobody who's worth a shit with a pistol talks crap on dry fire. I can think of exactly one guy who is a very, very accomplished pistol shooter that I know of personally. I could think of exactly two guys who are very, very accomplished pistol shooters who don't dry fire. I will name one of them. One of them is Zach Kosh from Apache Solutions. Now, I'm not saying he never dry fires.
Okay.
But I'm saying for as good as that boy is with a pistol, he don't dry fire a lot.
No.
So that's one dude I'm willing to name on here. Another dude is a local competitor of mine, not like a training company competitor, but a guy that competes against me in matches. And he swears to Jeebus he don't dry fire. It's
I mean, look,
good.
there are some people like that, and that's fair. My argument would be until you can determine with an audience that you can perform to or exceed the standard of a given class or competition, you should probably try fire.
Oh hell yeah!
Because look, let's examine it at the absolute most core fundamental of what it gives you an opportunity to do, especially for the novice shooter or maybe the new concealed carrier. It gives you an opportunity to get familiar with your firearm, manipulating, going through the loading and unloading procedure, right? Drawing the firearm from a holster, just getting that gun in your hands is going to make it more and more. We've all heard the common trope of it's an extension of your hand. It's only going to get to that level if you actively practice with it and get familiar with it. It's got to spend a lot of time in your hand in order for you to consider it an extension of yourself.
Yeah. Like anything else, right? Repetition breeds competence generally.
Right.
Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. All that good stuff. So here's what I wish. What I wish a student or a shooter or a gun user would do. So we're all familiar with the drills. The drills. I just on the Range Master instructor page here recently, there was a guy on YouTube talking about how drills don't serve any purpose, right? And the Range Master folks, a couple of them were were being a little bit like, ha, 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 look at this. And then a lot of us were like, wait, but we can combat this mentality with direct information and input. So let's do that rather than just being silly pants with it. But everybody's familiar with, the tests, 10 rounds, 10 yards, 10 seconds, the bill drill, the El Prez, the, 3 body, 2 head, the black belt patch standards, the freaking, everybody's got a standard or a thing or a drill. Okay. So what I wish a student would do is buy one of these here, El Timero, right? And they go out and they shoot their drill and they get a time and they get a score on the drill. And they dissect the drill time. I'll use a drill for argument's sake, right? So I'll use 10 rounds, 10 yards, 10 seconds, the test, and I'll do super test, which is 10 yards, 10 rounds, 10 seconds off a draw stroke, right? So timer goes beat, draw gun, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, holster up, scored on a B8. You want to be all black, so that's at least 90. And a lot of us are scoring, high 97, 98, X counts, all that kind of stuff. Okay? So I wish a student would break that down and look at the components that are required to, to have a pretty good idea of a score on something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're trying, and the goal is 10 yards, 10 rounds, and 10 seconds. So if you run your timer and your time is on that particular drill, say 11:02, right? Kent, what's your time? 5.5, roughly. Usually I'm about 5.5 on that, 10 yards, 10 rounds, and 10 seconds off the draw stroke. Okay? Well, my time's 11:02. Why is Kent faster than me? Well, because Kent's a professional. Is that a helpful answer? No? Okay. Here's a helpful answer. Kent's draw stroke wasn't 4 seconds. Let's start there, right? The timer tells us what the draw stroke was on that first shot, and we look and we go, damned if it didn't take me every bit of 4 seconds to draw my pistol and get that thing lined up on a B8 at 10 yards. Well, now that's something to know. Then we look and we go, man, my splits were, I shot about 1 second splits, maybe 0.8s or so. Okay, so what am I doing differently? 175 draw to a B8, 25, 30 splits. That's all, right? That's really the only difference. Okay. Now there's a lot of pistol shooting skill involved in that, but can we get a 175 draw stroke to a B8? And how do we do it? I would call that a pretty modular. And by the way, because we're shooting for X rings on B8s here, it's not like we're shooting a whole silhouette. I would call that a pretty modulated draw stroke. Access, full speed. Grip, full speed. Present, not full speed, right? So I'm really getting a refinement on my dot. So if I'm doing my access, grip, present, and I'm breaking things down into micro drills, as TJ stated, that means I want to get my cover garment clear and get my dominant hand on my gun. That's 1/3 of the draw stroke. Then I want to get my dominant hand on my gun, bounce out of my holster and into my two-handed grip. That's 2/3 of the draw stroke. Those 2/3, I want to be that same speed, right? I want to go as fast as fucking possible to get the gun in my hands. I can't shoot the gun as fast as possible at a B8 at 10 yards because I'm not Riley Bowman, right? But I am Kent Hauer. And that means that's going to take me about 0.75 or 0.8. If I wrap all that together, get a good solid sight picture, that leads to about a 175 first shot on target on the B8. Now, there's nine shots left, okay? About 3 shots per second, 3, 3, and 3. And you get right to about 5.5 to 6 seconds, just depending on how fast I split, because we're leaving a tenth over from each. Do you guys follow that math? It's not super terrible tough math, but like now I've got 175 in one shot. I hit a 30, right? So now I have a 205 for 2 shots. I hit another 30, 235 for 3, another 30, 265 for 4, another 30, 295 for 5, right? You guys, so now we're just adding 30s. So now we're getting right to the point where we have a reasonable understanding of what our time looks like and then what our accuracy component looks like. So we can focus on one leg of that stool at a time, as our buddy Tim Herron likes to say. So we can either work on the accuracy component or we can work on the speed component. For the sake of this conversation, let's say we're talking about working on the speed component. So now my goal is a 10-10-10 in under 10 seconds. In order to accomplish that, I need a 2-second draw stroke to my first shot on a B8, right? And I need about, honestly, 0.8 splits. Get that done just fine. My dry fire regiment should then be a precise target at the best distance I can get. So the B8 10 ring is 1.75 inches. So if I put a 1.75 inch circle up at 10 yards in my basement, which I can do, that's reasonable. Hell, in my basement, I could hang a whole B8 up and actually take the walk and do it, right? So that works fine. Or if I don't have that room, maybe I go to a 0.8 circle or so, and I do that at 5 yards. Half the distance, half the target size. And I decide I want to work to a 2-second part time, we'll call it. Well, now, access, grip, present, each need to be worth about 0.75, right? Yeah, a little bit less than that, about 0.55 or 0.6, just to give me some wiggle room. If I'm doing that math, 666, 180. So we'll call it 0.66 is actually where I need to be to get that done. So that will give me a 198 draw stroke if I did 0.66. So I need access, 0.66, grip, 0.66, and present, 0.66. Not really, because Kent taught me how to go way faster than that in defensive pistol metrics on a close target. So why can't I do 0.33 to the gun, 0.33 to my hands, and now what do I have? I have 1.55 or 1.6 seconds to modulate from here to here on a B8 repair center. So my dry fire practice for this drill would look like access a third of the time, grip a third of the time, and present a third of the time while finally wrapping it back together. So I set my timer on 0.33. Are you ready? Stand by. Beat. Hand on gun. Did I make it or didn't I? Good. Then I would, from hand on gun, cover garment cleared, beat, gun into 2 hands. Did I make it? Yes or no? Great. Moving on. From gun in 2 hands, 1.55 seconds. Beat, red dot on target, trigger pressed. Beat, red dot on target, trigger pressed. Beat, red dot on target, trigger pressed. Finally, at the end of the dry fire session, I would add those components together, all 3 of them. Are you ready? Stand by. Beat. I would have a 2-second part time. I would draw, I would roll out, and I would take a solid trigger press on the X ring of the B8. That's component number 1. Now component number 2 is working on splits. So set up a dead trigger gun, run a metronome app. So you get your metronome app out, and you figure out that there's 60 seconds in a minute. So you'd set your metronome app and you'd say, hey, man, I want 0.5 splits on this, right? So we would do 0.5 times 60. Let's see, 160.
Be 180 beats per minute.
60. It's like going to be 170 beats per minute. Or is it 180?
So it's 180.
Okay. Cool. Metronome app, 180 beats per minute. That sounds like deep, 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 deep. And what do? You grip your gun, you run your trigger, beep, 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 beep. Every trigger press is a beep. Every beep is a trigger press. So you keep your timing on. Now you've worked on your splits. There you go. You have just successfully dry fired the test into its component parts. Lastly, for your maybe third or fourth dry fire session on this, you would stand at your 10-yard marker with your B8 in dry fire, set a 10-second par time, and draw that son of a bitch and give me 10 dry fire presses on it. Did we get it or didn't we? That's what folks need to be doing in dry fire. Have I autistically lost anybody yet? This is all I do. I just sit in my basement and talk about shit.
No, man. No, I'm able to keep up with you, and I'm even trying to approach this as somebody who hasn't heard this before. So I think it's making perfect sense.
So, sorry to cut you off. So then, once we figured out that these are the component things that we need to work on, what do we need to do? We need to document that shit, find our failure points, and we need to emphasize those failure points in dry fire. So, if your splits are fine, if your accuracy's fine, if your grip's fine, but your draw stroke sucks, man, it's time for you to work access, grip, present.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you need to highlight what your failures are and need to work on them through those failures. That's my recipe for the common student. Now, look, there's the Ben Steger books, there's the Steve Anderson books, there's the Annette Evans books. Refinement and Repetition by Anderson is a phenomenal book that literally is a Jane Fonda dry fire plan. If you will just do this, you will improve, right? If you'll just run Anderson's stuff, you'll be doing just fine, right? So you can do all those. What you should not be doing in dry fire. Couple things I see a lot of. Number one, I see a lot of mindless, aimless, not really serious dry fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just sort of fucking around.
Half-hearted.
Yeah. Did you ever know anybody that told you? You ever know anybody that told you a dry fire story from the gun store? Oh, no. I just dry. Yeah, right. Probably not. I just dry fired a light switch, or when the TV's on, every time the Ninja Turtle shows up, I shoot him, or
Nope, and that's actually one of the downsides is all these gun the barflies of the gun world. The hang-arounds and the familiars that you always see at the gun store, but never at the range, are usually the last ones that'll admit that dry fire is valuable, or even know what the hell it is, right?
Yeah.
Truth be told, probably one of the precipitating reasons that we decided to do an episode on this topic.
Oh, precipitating. I thought it was raining.
No. Rain and dry fire, rain and knowledge bombs, maybe. As TJ screams into his microphone again, I should probably move that thing back a little bit.
Something else you'll see a lot done is you'll see guys chase one leg of the stool way past the other leg. So you'll see a guy Instagram dry fire until he's blue in the face. And his whole deal is speed, right? He's just I was just doing 0.8 draw strokes. And I was doing 0.8 draw strokes from 3 yards away to a 2-inch square date on a calendar. Because TJ and I were trying to talk while I was doing it. Normally I don't shoot at my calendar, but I decided, screw it, I'll use that square, right? So I was doing 0.8, dot arrives in the 2-inch square, press and trigger. You'll see a lot of just dudes, beat, draw, throw the fucking gun up, grip all goes to hell. The trigger gets pressed, the dot wobbles like a son of a bitch, both hands death grip into the gun, all kinds of frenetic, crazy motion, heads dropping, shoulders popping, pussies locking. Sound like a rap song?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And there's all kinds of terrible technique being freaking repped in, but the timer is the almighty God. And that's it. And then,
well, and I would argue that's a real. So here's the double-edged sword of dry fire. It can induce training scars. It is a training event, right? So these guys that you see, the Instagram famous dudes that are just gripping it and ripping it, like Kent's saying, you know, probably wearing an affliction shirt that says full send on it. The reality is, you get those guys in live fire, and their performance might be impressive from a speed perspective, but you'll watch that come apart very quickly throughout a training day, and they will be inconsistent.
yeah.
Like, you take somebody that tries to go for speed, and yeah, they'll probably have a few draw strokes to an A zone of a target within inside 10 yards in a second or less quite easily. But will they be able to maintain that throughout the day? Somebody who dry fires, maybe that person's getting a 1.5 or a 2-second hit on an A zone inside 10 yards, right? But the person that dry fires will consistently remain at that level of performance until they meet the next training benchmark. Those guys that go that go balls out, they're going to hit sub-second a couple of times, and you see them going to slow down to like maybe 1.5 seconds or 2.5 seconds, or their accuracy is going to go to shit. You will see elements of that car falling off as they go down the highway.
The other thing you'll see is a lot of this. Ready? Anybody bored yet?
Mm-hmm.
That was a great trigger press, bro. Right? And that's the dude's dry fire regiment. You're like, all right, cool, bro. So, like, you're going to hit shit. But if it's fighting back, that motherfucker is certainly hitting you first. Like, So you'll see dudes that way overemphasize both legs of that stool, speed and accuracy. And they won't do anything that kind of mixes that up. For example, right, I'm playing with this 2011. One of the things that I'm really, really working on right now is exactly what does my grip dynamic need to be to get this pistol right. It's about right there, by the way. Boy, that feels good. Great. You know what I need to do a lot of? I need to just work on gripping this damn pistol.
Right.
I don't even need a timer for that. I need the gun to start at grip and just roll in and catch the dot. Start at grip, roll in, catch the dot. Start at grip, watch the dot drive. Ooh, fuck. Fix that shit. Sometimes I just need to be doing that. Sometimes I need the metronome app just to run nothing but transitions. Just 25, 25, 25, 25, 25. Break your eyes before you're gone. Break your eyes before you're gone. That's all you need to be doing. Sometimes you need to be being precise. Sometimes you need to be fast. Sometimes it's just gun handling shit. Sometimes it's just reloads, malfunctions, safety manipulation, slide locks, all that kind of stuff. You need to be doing all those things on the gun. Not just drawing it, gripping it and ripping it. Not just, side splitting reloads. Not just anything. If your dry fire regiment is, what do? I get up every morning. I set my beeper to beeper beep, right? I put that bitch on the fastest draw stroke I can get. And I beep, and I throw the gun out. I get the dot, press the trigger. Beep, throw the gun out, get the dot, press the trigger. I do 20 of them. I holster up, and I go on about my day. And then tomorrow morning, man, I'll tell you what, you're building, if you're getting a good grip and a good presentation and a good trigger press, you're building awesome reps on your draw to first shot. And to be fair, you're probably, that's probably the thing that's going to matter most in a defensive encounter until it's not. So you have to follow up shots, or until you have to be accurate at distance, or, until you, whatever else. Now, all of a sudden, you ain't that guy, pal, because you didn't do any of that work. The only work you did was the stuff that you enjoy most in dry fire. I like this 2011. Yeah. Anyway.
I like mine better. I
don't know about you. Mine likes me better. So, kind of like the last thing I would say is whatever this event is for you, the dry fire event, there should be a plan. My students that have been private training with me for a while do, I do personal dry fire plans. I do dry fire Zoom sessions. I help guys figure this out. This is training and should be looked at as such. You said it yourself. It's a training event. I can't stress enough. This is dojo time. This isn't fuck around and find out time. This isn't blasting music time. This isn't take a shot, run the gun, take a shot, run the gun. I mean, like booze. Don't be doing that. This isn't something you do when you're just like walking around your house and, I'm going to try fire, bro. And then put your gun away and then don't do nothing for a while. This is like, no, man, I'm going to carve me out some time. If I can only carve out 10 minutes, that's what I'm going to give myself. But I'm going to carve out a solid 10 minutes and I'm going to get some fucking work in. I'm going to document that work and then I'm going to come back later. That's a pretty good dry fire primer. Do you have any questions or anything that you wanted to follow up with yet?
No, I think that about covers it. I really do. At least for the first episode, right? We're going to do another 382 of these.
Right.
So there's certainly going to be more to cover. Just a couple of notes, right? So Kent, you kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the episode. Guns that are incapable of sustaining dry fire practice without receiving some level of damage to them, right? I'm going to tell you right now, if you're one of these people that has inherited Grandpappy's old service revolver that has the firing pin on the hammer, that's one of those guns that you can't dry fire like that. They need to fall on a chamber with something in it. They cannot fall on an empty chamber. That is where snap caps do come into play. Just an old trick of the trade, because some people don't even like to use the snap caps for the fact that the little rubber plug that goes into the where a primer would be isn't really sufficient. I have seen guys that have filled casings with hot glue so much to the point that it is spilling out of the flash hole for the primer, and then just trimming that off, and then that firing pin can fall onto that dried hot glue. That actually works quite well and is a lot more sustainable than that little bitty chintzy piece of rubber, because that can fall out of those snap caps. But honestly, I wouldn't dry fire something like that anyway. If it has a built-in firing pin into the hammer of an old revolver, probably best to go ahead and pick yourself up something different. Most of your modern firearms will support and sustain dry fire practice. Again, though, consult the manual and review it. Do your research. All the manuals for literally every gun out there is available on the internet. And you can read up on all these different guns by the manufacturer's recommendations on what to do and not to do with that firearm before you even purchase it.
Real quick on that, just to be clear, I didn't know this. Smith & Wesson, for an example, will I've seen in the manuals for Smith & Wesson guns that I know you can dry fire, that they say don't dry fire it because like warranties and shit.
Right.
So that's the thing too. So just pay attention to some of that stuff. Because that is a thing.
Absolutely. That is a thing.
Well, I think we did a good...
Read the manufacturer's documentation.
Yeah. We did a good first episode on this.
I think so.
We're going to definitely have to come back to it because we have to talk about dry firing for performance. We have to talk about using dry fire as a diagnostics tool. We have to talk about how I incorporate dry fire into live fire. By simply, not every live rep needs a boom. Like, you can get 6 draw strokes, and on the 7th, one send around.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, especially, and that is really kind of the, aside from the training value of proper dry fire sessions, let's be honest, one of the greatest reasons to do it is for the budget conscious, right? Look, ammo's expensive. Not everybody can afford to go out and buy a case of ammunition or a pallet of ammunition and just go to the range and have all this ammo at their disposal. And some people don't have the money to invest into a hobby like reloading. Whoever said that reloading will save you money is full of shit. If anything, it can in the long run, but it takes a lot of reloading in order for that return on investment to take hold.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an investment nonetheless. But yeah, look, it's all good stuff. Just my recommendation, go forth and do it. And by all means, folks, if you have questions, there's a reason we have social media for the podcast. There's a reason we have an email. Guys, reach out to us. Let us know what your questions are, what your concerns are. We'll either address them right then and there, or we'll address them on the show, right? I've been wanting to do a fan mail episode for a long time, and sadly, I don't get any fan mail. Kent does. Kent gets all the fan mail. We know who you fuckers like more now. So,
yeah. Or you could go to www.greenmountaindefense.com/training and click on the digital training button, where you can have me come do a dry fire Zoom session with you.
That'll be cool.
I like those. Those are fun.
Are they?
Yeah, they're fun.
Because it mixes your passion for firearms education and training with your passion for voyeurism and sneaking into other people's webcams.
And also my passion for money.
Right, that works. Oh, sure.
Wait,
yeah,
can
we'll
people
go
sneak
with
into
that.
my webcam?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. You can solve that problem with literally a two cents worth of blue masking tape.
Yeah. Okay, let's pay the bills. www.greenmountaindefense.com/training. Defensive Pistol Metrics, June 11th weekend. Selling some seats to that. Not sold out yet, but it actually might. I would bet there will be about 8 or 10 people at that class if we're being real. So that'll be a pretty good weekend. Mr. Ramsey's going to
those are rookie numbers, man. We got to bump those numbers up if you want to get my ass out of this basement for a week.
Nah, just come on up. It'd be fun.
I mean, we're going to come up anyway.
Right. You're getting paid either way. It's me that ain't making the money if nobody shows up. So
fair point.
There's that.
Well, it's because I bring the pole.
Nice.
That always at least a few dollars in my G-string.
Let's see what else. I don't know. There's other classes.
Come see the twirling sunburnt ginger on his stripper pole of justice.
I'm hot, sticky, sweet from my head. I can see that.
I'm more of a cherry pie fan, but sure.
Oh yeah, she's mine. Yeah. Okay. Not that I've ever been to a strip club or anything. Yeah, come train. Private lessons are stupid booked. We are busy for private lessons. It's really hard to find a day I'm not teaching at least 1 or 2 or 3 private lessons. I get up, go to my day job, and then every week I go to the range and teach a private lesson, it seems. So that's pretty neat. Let's keep that trend rolling. And yeah, guys, let's get out there and get the work done this summer. The summer is going to be a good one. Lots of cool stuff coming for the fall. I've got a range master class coming up. We could call that Kent proves to Tom Gibbons he can shoot a revolver a weekend.
I deserve to be here.
Right. That's that whole weekend. We booked our tickets for TACCon, so TJ and I are representing the Green Mountains and headed to TACCon next year. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to come to TACCon, you're going to have to do it in 2025. 2024 sold out in like fucking 13 minutes.
Is it sold out already?
Oh, it was sold out. It was sold out within hours after you getting your thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it It gone. They gone. They already gone. It over.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's just get out and do the damn thing, guys. TJ, do you have anything that you read every show? All the shows? TJ?
I'm here. You froze up and I couldn't hear you. I take it you asked TJ what you got.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, cool. Folks, that is all the time we have for this week. Thank you for joining us on Cinco de Mayo. We hope that you have a very safe and pleasant experience out there celebrating all of the Mayos that are Cinco. Until we see each other again, God bless you all. Take care of each other. Get out and shoot.
The Mayos that are Cinco.